Hare Krishna, everybody, welcome. Welcome. So, in today's session, we are going to cover Shlokas 7.26 to 7.30. And these are the final Shlokas for the 7th chapter. So, we are going to conclude the 7th chapter today. Before we begin, I will say the prayer to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So I will play the Guru Mantra. You can try to follow it at your own end.
Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
Hare Krishna. So I'm going to start playing the shlokas, and this time I sent you all the translations. So if you want, you can keep the translations in front of you.
Vedaham samaditani vartamanani charjuna Bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana Ichchadvesha samuddhena dvandva mohena bharata Sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam Te dvanva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drudhavrataha Jara marana mokshaya mamashritya yatandiye Te brahma tadviduh kritsnam adhyatmam karma chakhilam साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Vijnana Yogo Nama Saptamodhyayaha.
Hare Krishna. Preeti ji, you want to read the shlokas today?
Verse 7.26. I know of the past, present, and future. I also know of living beings, O Arjuna, but no one knows me. Verse 7.26. O Bharata, Arjuna, all beings in the material realm are deluded by the dualities arising from the desire and hatred. 7.28. But those whose sins have been destroyed by virtuous deeds, they, being free from the delusion of duality, worship me with the steadfast resolve. 7.29. Those who take shelter in me, aiming for the liberation from old age and death, come to know the Brahman, the whole knowledge of the self, and that of karmic actions. 7.30. Those who know me as the governing principle of the material and divine aspects and all sacrifices, they, with a steady mind, know me even at the time of their departure, that is death. Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So we are going to study, and there's a lot of profound teachings for us to take away today. And I'm going to try my best. I pray to Krishna that I do a good job, because these are all key lessons that will help shape our destiny, that will help shape our spiritual evolution. I'm confident about that. So if you remember, in the previous set of shlokas, Krishna was talking about various types of bhakti. We discussed Navada bhakti and the types of bhakti as documented in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we also discussed why the path of bhakti and surrender was the best of all paths. I hope there is no doubt there. Does everybody agree that that is the best path? Can I see show of hands? I just want to make sure. Okay, everybody agrees. Okay, excellent. So then we are in the right class. We are studying the right chapter then. Okay. Okay. Now, what is the question? So it is one thing to say that bhakti is the best path. It is one thing to say that bhakti is the most superior path. Saying is easy, always. Now, there is a question that often comes up. Practitioners, they always ask this question. They say, living in the world and actively participating in it, can we still do bhakti? That is a question that people usually ask. I think I see a hand up. Smitaji, if you want to ask something, can you please turn on the video?
No, sorry. It was for the previous one. I was not able to find how to raise the hand, so it got delayed. Sorry for the disturbance.
No problem. I thought you had a question, so thank you for clarifying. Okay. So Hare Krishna. Let's continue. So this is a very common question. It's a very practical question. Okay, and this question needs to be addressed before we can, expect anybody to acknowledge that bhakti is the superior path and bhakti is the path that we should all follow. Okay, so now Naradji explained this in the Bhakti Sutras, and Krishna has also explained the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them have said that yes, we can do bhakti while living in the world. In fact, Naradji says that we must do bhakti while living in the world. It is in fact more important for people who are living in the world and participating in the world. It is more important for them to practice bhakti. And what is it that we learnt in the previous few shlokas? We started with how Krishna started with jnana, then Krishna started with karma, then Krishna progressed to nishkama karma, and then we studied renunciation in action, and we added a flavor that said we have to practice devotion in action. That is what it means. Devotion in action means you are living in the world, you are participating in the world, you are just doing everything without attachments and with a bhava of devotion. Sant Kabir, one of the greatest poets of all times, he has said this very beautifully. I really like it, so I thought I'll share it with you all. So Sant Kabir says, Jahan jahan chalu karu parikrama, jo jo karu so seva, jab sovu karu dandavat, janu dev na duja. So beautiful. He's saying, whenever I'm walking, I'm in the mindset that I'm circumambulating the Lord. You don't have to necessarily go to a temple to walk around the temple. Wherever you walk, why can't you be in the mindset that you are performing that action? Right? And he says, whatever I do, I'm doing with a mindset of seva to the Lord. Anything I do is a seva. That is my bhav, he says. And he says, when I'm not doing anything, when I'm sleeping, I'm anyways lying down. At that time, I'm in the mindset that I'm doing Dandavat Pranam. So even while sleeping, he's considering sleep itself as performing that pranam to the Lord. And he says, there is nothing else in my mind except the Lord. So that is the way of devotion in action. So beautiful. And that is the kind of nishkama karma Shri Krishna has taught us in the Bhagavad Gita. And this has to be done with the bhava of devotion. The most funny question, I can't resist my temptation. One of my students from my other class, I used to also do little bit of teaching in other places. So one young chap, he came and told me that, so you told us that we should do action without expectation. I have been doing it for a few months, but I'm still not seeing any results. So, I was like, you're missing the whole point. You cannot say I'm doing nishkama karma, but nothing is happening, because when you are in the mode of nishkama karma, you are really not looking for results. You don't have any attachment. Okay, that is the key point there. So we will see in the 9th chapter, Krishna will have a very powerful shloka. This is a very popular, powerful shloka. So I thought I will bring it over and give you a quick preview of that. So Krishna will say in 9th chapter, Yat karoshi, yat dashnasi, yat juhoshi dadasi, yat yasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer as oblation to the sacred fire, whatever you bestow as a gift, whatever austerities you perform, O son of Kunti, do them all as an offering to me. This is how you practice the real nishkama karma in a mindset of bhava, of devotion. Okay. So Shri Krishna has said, live in the world and do nishkama karma. And Naradji says the same thing, and he's adding. He's saying, live in the world and practice nishkama karma with bhakti. Or in other words, he says, you can look at it both ways. You can either look at it as you are doing nishkama karma with bhakti, or you can look at it as I am practicing bhakti through nishkama karma. They are both closely related. So we already learned Krishna's teaching, where Krishna said you need to practice renunciation in action. What does that mean? What does renunciation in action mean? It basically means you live in the world, but don't let the world live in you. Makes it clear? Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he is always excellent in giving analogies. So he explains the same thing. He says it is just like a boat which is in the water, but the water is not in the boat. So nice, right? That is how we should be. We should be like a boat. The water is like the sansar that we are living in. So we have to be in the world. No problem. Just don't let the world get inside you. So why are we not able to do that? Why most people struggle? The very fact that the question even comes, can I perform bhakti while living in the world? The very fact is that people find it hard. People find it difficult to practice spirituality or bhakti while they are living in the material world. But the answer is very simple. Lot of saints have given the answer to this question, and they all said the same thing. They said the answer is just one word. The answer is attachment. Attachment is the whole problem. The problem is not with the world. No, the problem is with attachment. If you see in the 5th chapter, Shri Krishna has said, Kayena manasa buddhya kevalaiha indrayaiha api yoginam karma kuruvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. What does that mean? Krishna has said, the yogis, while giving up attachment, they perform actions with their body, senses, mind and intellect only for the purpose of self-purification. See how clearly Krishna has explained. What Krishna is saying is, no matter what they do, their purpose is only self-purification. So there is no attachment there. So as we can see, Krishna, this one very beautiful, the reason I brought this shloka here again, because we already studied it in the 5th chapter, but the reason I'm bringing it again here is there is another beautiful aspect to this shloka, where if you can see, Krishna, he is calling those people as yogi. Who is he calling as yogi in that shloka? Those who have given up attachment. So maybe you can take a note and go read it yourself later. It is Shloka 5.11. So you should see that Krishna is not saying that a person who stands on one leg for 1,000 years is a yogi. I mean, yeah, maybe they could also be considered an yogi, but Krishna's emphasis is giving up attachment. And Krishna says, if you can do that, you are a yogi. So beautiful. So Krishna is saying anybody who is able to give up attachment and performing material duties, they are all yogis. See, Krishna always empowers us. Krishna is always giving us tips on how we can become something bigger than our own selves. So beautiful. Now in the second chapter, I'm again bringing one more shloka from the second chapter, where Krishna has said, Vihaya kamanya sarvana pumans charati nispruha nirmamo nirahankaraha sa shantim adhigacchati. That person who gives up all material desires and lives free from a sense of greed, proprietorship and egotism, they attain perfect peace. So what Krishna says, if you can follow this teaching, then you will begin to see the world as a form of God. Once you see the world as a form of God, then it will become easy for you to perform your duties in a bhava of devotion. And that is how you bring harmony between karma and bhakti. See, karma is a separate concept, bhakti is a separate concept. Naradji, Krishna, they are all teaching us how to bring them together, how to create a harmony between karma and bhakti. And they say once you do that, that sets it up for success in the path to spiritual evolution through bhakti. Very deep. Now it is not just enough to develop bhakti, okay? It is just like anybody here, if you have tried building muscles, you will know that building muscles takes a lot of efforts. You have to go to the gym, you have to lift weights and whatever. But it is even more important that you maintain it. Because once you build some muscle, if you say, okay, I have done it, I have achieved my goal, and then you stop everything, then within a few months it is push, gone again. Bhakti is also like that. It is not just enough to develop bhakti, it is very important to maintain and grow that bhakti. Why I am bringing that aspect here is, this is a very common problem with all of us. The common problem is, we all do some spirituality, we all do some practices, we all develop some bhakti, we feel good about it. We think we have devotion, we think we have love, all of that, yes, excellent. And then what happens? The inevitable happens. What is inevitable? We are in this material world. What is inevitable? Pain and sorrow. So some pain comes, some sorrow comes. And suddenly we start doubting. Suddenly we start doubting God, we start doubting destiny, we start doubting ourselves. And what happens? You just climbed 3 steps, now you are climbing down 4 steps. It's a very common problem, happens to everybody. So pain and sorrow becomes a cause for going backwards on the journey, for negating everything that we have developed in the path of spiritual evolution and bhakti. So that is why I am bringing that aspect here, is we have to maintain devotion even when we are faced with pain and sorrow. How is that possible? What do we have to do? I am telling you, based on what Krishna is saying, Krishna's teachings, Krishna's invaluable teachings, is we need to learn to transcend pain and sorrow. We cannot avoid pain and sorrow. So there is no point praying to God saying, give me a life that has no pain, that has no sorrow. Not happening, nada, sorry. But we can ask God to give us the strength to transcend that pain. So what does it mean? What does it mean to transcend pain and sorrow? It does not mean that you don't have any pain at all. It does not mean that you will not feel any pain at all. That's not what it means. What it means is, you will stop being controlled by that pain and sorrow. You will stop being manipulated by that pain and sorrow. You will stop being impacted at a deep level by that pain and sorrow. Do we have examples? Many examples. There are many saints and sages who have demonstrated this. They have led by example. One of the excellent examples is Saint Ramakrishna himself. If you go and read Ramakrishna's biography, you will see that during his last days, Ramakrishna had throat cancer, which is a very painful condition, because you can't swallow your own saliva, you can't swallow food, it is always there. Throat cancer is a very, very painful thing. But he led by example. People around him would always wonder that this person is going through such a bad problem, this person is going through like such a painful, but we cannot see any pain in his face. This person always seems blissful. So he led by example. He showed how you can transcend it. Till his last day, Ramakrishna was devoted to his Devi. There was absolutely no reduction in his devotion. So very, very beautiful example. So Krishna has said that, even Krishna has said that about himself, Krishna has said that I am in the world, but I am not impacted by the world. The same example we gave about the spider. The spider is in the web, but it itself never gets caught in the web. You can never find any example where a spider is stuck in its own web. That is the beautiful message there. That is the nature of transcending pain. So you can be in pain, but you are not impacted by that pain. Very beautiful lesson. And that should be the goal of every yogi. So this is all sounding theoretical, but I can extend it a little more to help us understand this better on, okay, how do we actually do it? Because the lesson here is, what should we do when we face pain? This knowledge is fine. It all sounds very fancy, but what do I do tomorrow when I face pain? That's the question. Now, one of the answers is, we need to try and see another dimension of ourselves which is always beyond pain, which is never impacted by the pain. The more we learn to identify with that dimension, the more we can transcend pain. Does it make sense? Or maybe I can make it simpler. See, it's like watching a movie. We have all watched some kind of tragic movie, and sometimes we have felt like crying. Some people even cry. But then, somewhere you realize that it is just a movie. You don't keep crying all your life, right? You realize that it is just a movie. You realize that it should not really impact me so much because it's just a movie. And that is how you transcend that sadness. So you already know how to do it. What you did, all you did was identify yourself with a dimension which was higher than what was going on in the movie. You are higher than that movie, that dimension. You are not in the movie, correct? Just like that, you are not this body. You are the soul, which is the highest. And the more you can learn to identify with that, then the movie of life, it may make you cry, but it shouldn't impact you. Okay, cry for that moment and then let go. Don't cling on to it. Because you are higher. You are the soul. That is how you actually transcend pain and sorrow. Because that is the truth, absolute truth, right? So then how do we achieve this kind of self-realization? This is what is self-realization. Once you have figured out that you are not this, you are something higher, that is self-realization. So how do we do that? How do we, a beautiful example given by another Swamiji, he says, look at the blue sky, he says. There are so many clouds passing below. Doesn't matter how dark the clouds are, doesn't matter how much stormy those clouds are, do they ever impact the sky? The sky merely lets everybody pass through. That should be our state of our mind, is let pain come, let sorrow come. Everything that comes will go. Let it come, let it go. Be an observer. and identify with that higher self and say that I am not this body. No, I am watching this movie, but I am not this movie. That makes it easier to transcend that pain. See, it is not easy, I know. I'm not just preaching, because one of the reasons why I think I can do a good job of teaching these kind of topics is because I am not a Swami. I am in the world, just like all of you. I am also going through the same movie. So sometimes when I say something, I think I have a lot of conviction. So I know that it is not easy for us, people like us, to come to this kind of realization. So self-realization is required, but it's not easy. Now Swami Vivekananda, he is giving a very beautiful angle to all of this. So Swami Vivekananda says that all the senses that we have, all the sense organs that we have, they are all turned outwards. That is a fact. You don't need to, everybody knows that. Your eyes, they don't see inside our body, they can see only outside. Our nose can smell only what is outside the body. Our ears cannot hear our own heartbeat. It can hear only. So in other words, all our senses, they are all turned outwards. Correct? So Vivekananda says that is the reason why it is easier to perceive God outside of us. So if somebody puts a statue or somebody puts an idol or says that is God, that is the reason why Sanatana Dharma gave so much freedom to people to see God in whatever form they wanted, because Vivekananda explains that is easier for human beings. So Vivekananda says, look at God the way you want to look at God outside of you, that's okay. Although God is inside you, that is a truth. But God is also outside of you, which is also truth. And Vivekananda says outside is easier because all your sense organs are anyways pointing outside. So instead of fighting them, align with them, that's okay. And he says that is the whole methodology of Archanam, that kind of Bhakti Bhav we discussed. Right? Archanam is all about, we are like pouring milk, we are putting flour, we are showing Arti, Dhoop Arti. That kind of Bhakti, Vivekananda says, is easy because of this reason, because our senses are pointing outside. So if you are struggling to do internal self-realization, then begin with external God and Bhakti to God, and eventually you will evolve and eventually you will be able to get that internal self-realization. Now this is all fine. I'm wearing both hats. I'm wearing the hat of a teacher. I'm also wearing the hat of a tough student, because that is how even I learn anything that I read. When I read something, one part of me says, yeah, I understood. The other part says, what understood? It's not making sense. So here I'm wearing both hats to make it easier for you. So all this is fine, but then some students get very confused. They say that, okay, on one hand, Vedanta talks about things like Aham Brahmasmi. It says, I am God. While on the other hand, we talk about devotion, prayer, and surrender to a God. Okay, so if I am God, then am I surrendering to myself? If I am God, then am I praying to myself? These kind of questions come. I don't know if you have read, this is one of the most common criticisms of Jesus Christ also. So whenever people try to talk about Jesus Christ and they don't understand, they will point to this. They will say, oh, in the Bible it says that, at the time of crucifixion, Jesus prayed out, he cried out to God. He asked God, have you forsaken me? Very popular part of the Bible. While there are other parts of the Bible where it says that Jesus Christ himself is God. So then people ask this question, so if Jesus is God and then you also say that he was praying to God, was he praying to himself? It doesn't make sense. The right answer is, it is both true and not true. Because Jesus was not praying to his material body. That is what you identify with. When you say Jesus, you are identifying with that body. But that is not what he was praying to. What he was praying to was the eternal, infinite, blissful consciousness, which is both inside and outside. It is outside too. So you are not doing anything wrong by praying out. That's fine. That's a beautiful lesson given by Vivekananda and other great saints. We also studied that our soul is qualitatively the same as Paramatma, but it is not quantitatively the same. That is one of the reasons why Shri Krishna makes a distinction. Brahma Bhuta and Brahma Samparsha. That Brahma Bhuta is self-realization, Brahma Samparsha is God realization. So what that means is, even when we have reached the stage of self-realization, we can and we should continue to pray and surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. I hope this all makes sense. So it is not like if God is in, God is not out, or if God is out, that means God is not in. Because God, we studied already that God is beyond all these limitations. What in, what out. God is everywhere. So you choose what you want to choose. If you want to see God out, go see God in out. That is a truth for you. That's okay. But this is how you practice bhakti. You don't limit God. Know that God is inside you, but don't limit and don't say that until I get that realization, I cannot have devotion. No, that is limiting. Okay. No, there are sages like Saint Narada Muni was himself a self-realized, perfected soul, but he was always devoted to Vishnu. So these are all sages who are leading by example. What does that mean? So he has realized the God within him, but he also knows that there is a bigger God outside. And he is always devoted to that God. So this is what we are trying to do here, is we are trying to merge these philosophies of Mayavadis and Bhaktivadis. They are not talking about two opposite things. They are just talking about two aspects. They are talking about two perspectives. And these don't have to be opposing each other. They can be in harmony with each other. So this is what Krishna says in Shloka 26. Krishna talks about a profound truth about himself. So Krishna says, I know, this was 26th Shloka, 7.26. He says, I know of the past, present and future. I also know all living beings, O Arjuna, but no one knows me. It's a beautiful statement that is capturing the unfathomable, all-encompassing nature of divine. The truth is the Supreme Lord understands everything, but we can never fully understand the Supreme Lord. That's a fact. No, it's this kind of shlokas, they take a lot of humility and they take a lot of introspection to fully understand. It is easy to just, look at it and discard it otherwise. Because some people says, what does Krishna mean? I can see past, present and future. I mean, it feels like a fantasy. No, it's not a fantasy. It's a fantasy only if you don't understand the nature of Bhagavan. So, and these are all questions that I have come across when I was younger. Where did God come from? If God exists in the universe, where was God before the universe was created? You can see a bunch of these questions, but what do these questions imply? All these questions imply that we are considering God to be bound by space and time. That is the fundamental mistake people do. They try to bring God to their level and then they try to understand the, infinite nature of God. I mean, how is that going to happen? So, space, time and matter, they were all created by God. It's a very beautiful concept I'm bringing in here so that it makes it interesting and it makes your understanding complete. That time, space and matter, they were all created by God. Truth number one. Truth number two, they were all created simultaneously. That is the part people are not able to understand. Does anybody find it hard to believe? Does anybody disagree that time, space and matter were not created simultaneously, or they don't have to be created simultaneously? Or does it just make sense? If it makes sense, you already have an understanding then. But okay. Maybe you're all still thinking, but let me feed some more data points. Okay. Why I also believe, and why it is a fact, that time, space, and matter were all created simultaneously. Imagine that matter was created first. Let us go through this reasoning. It's not simultaneous. Let us say matter was created first. Okay, then the question is, if matter was created first, then where would you put it? Because to put matter, you need space, right? Okay, so let us say matter is there, space is there. You're going to put matter in this space, but then when would you put it? No, you have to put it now, you have to put it later. So where would you put it? When would you put it? So as you can see the problem, if you're thinking about matter, then space and time also have to exist. No, and just like that, if time exists, how do you measure it? Because time is a concept. There is a very beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is shloka 311.4. Says, Sa kaluha paramanuha vayah bungate paramanutam satah avishesha bhuk yah tusa kalah paramah mahan. Srila Prabhupada ji, he translates this and he says, atomic time is measured according to its covering a particular atomic space. The time which covers the unmanifest aggregate of atoms is called the great time. See, I'll simplify it. We today also, the most accurate clock on the planet is known as the atomic clock. Why? Because you measure time in relation to an atom. So matter is used to measure time. So time cannot exist independent of matter. So this is what we mean by time, space, matter. They all have been created simultaneously. And if they are all created simultaneously, then of course Krishna can know what is the present, past, future, everything right now. Because he created time. We are not able to comprehend it because we are inside the movie. But he can because he is outside the movie. Okay. Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada explains that the way we understand time is based on how we look at the sun's movement and how Vedanta connects time, space, matter and sunlight, all of it together, and so beautifully it's connecting. So again, what we need to understand here is time, space, matter, they're all created by God, and God is not bound or impacted by any of them. Okay? That is what makes God infinite, timeless. So that should explain Krishna's statement, why he knows past, present, future and everything. So Srila Prabhupada said one other very beautiful thing. He said, if we try to understand that which cannot be understood, then what you are left with is just your own understanding, not the absolute truth. So that is why everybody says, don't try to understand God. God can never be fully understood. God can only be realized. That is why it is always self-realization, God realization. It is not self-understanding or God understanding. You can get an idea, but you can never fully understand. And Krishna himself has said that you can never fully understand me. God can only be realized. And how can that realization happen? Only through bhakti. So now we are tying everything together. Yes, use your jnana, understand all the beautiful concepts, but at the end you should know that God is beyond all of this. And that gives you an idea of how great God is. And then use bhakti so that you can realize that God. And what prevents it? Another stumbling block for this bhakti? Our huge fragile ego and pride and our own delusional mindset. You have to keep a check on all these things. You really have to. This is the best favor you can do to anybody that is near and dear to you is help each other. Help each other. Keep a check on your ego. Keep a check on your pride. Keep a check if you are being delusional, because these are the things that prevent our progress. And Krishna has spoken more about the delusion aspect. You may remember we studied this in the 3rd chapter, 3.27, where Krishna made a very strong statement. He said, Prakruteha kriyamanani guneha karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudatma karta ham imiti manyate. Actions in all respects are driven by the three modes of nature, but the soul, deluded by ego, thinks I am the doer. He doesn't talk about just muda, he talks about vimuda. Muda is foolish, vimuda is utterly foolish. So he says that is an utterly foolish soul that thinks that it is the doer. You know, what is his message? This is how people are misled by their senses, their egos. And instead of understanding how nature influences, how the gunas influence, how there is something much higher at play, if we can be in realization of that, we will automatically have a check on our ego and pride. Very important. And once you have a check on ego and pride, you will have a check on your delusional behavior. This is why I mute everybody. So the reason we are talking about all of this is they are all connected. Just like time, space, matter, we said they are all connected. Ego, pride and delusional mindset, they are all connected. Because you cannot be delusional if you don't have ego. Delusion basically means you have a certain belief and you are so attached to it and you are threatened if somebody questions it. And you will not give up that belief even if somebody gives you evidence. You are only going to be defensive. Why? That is the ego, that is the pride. So Krishna says, first take care of that ego and pride. Understand that you are just a small player. You are a very small player in this whole cosmos. Don't be a vimuda and think that you are the doer. So, Maya, we just spoke, some people, they learn how to peel away that ignorance and they begin to understand, spiritual truths. And these kind of people, they feel blessed and they feel happiness in that kind of closeness to the divine. So, the distance between us and the divine depends on how big that ego is. That ego is the distance between us and the divine. The wise people, they try to peel away the ignorance. The ego keeps getting smaller and smaller. Then you get the distance between us and the divine keeps reducing. And that when that reduces, the bliss and happiness increases, inversely proportionate. And Krishna also says that one of the other problems, what happens in life is this whole problem of dualities. Krishna says this dualities of happiness, sadness, love, hate, hot, cold. We experience this every day, and Krishna says the problem is we keep getting tossed between them. And so we are not able to stay calm because in the morning, my friend is happy and smiling at me. In the evening, my friend is upset with me. In the morning, life feels so difficult. I have to get up, go to work. In the evening, things feel much better because I can just relax, go to bed. All dualities. Do you remember in the second chapter, Krishna has spoken about that? Matra sparseshu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nityastan stitikshasva bharata. Where he said that, O son of Kunti, heat, cold, pain, pleasure, they are all impermanent. Learn to handle them calmly. Otherwise, how will your mind be calm? And if the mind is not calm, how will anything else I tell you make sense? How will you focus on anything else? Now I am telling you, take care of your ego, yes. But your mind is not calm at all. So what makes sense now doesn't make sense 10 minutes later. Because you're already in that turmoil, in that we have a huge food processor inside our mind, it's going boom, 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 boom all the time. And so Krishna is saying, handle that. Try to practice equanimity. You cannot control circumstances, but you can control how you react to that. And Krishna says in 2.64 that when you learn to handle attachment and aversion, that itself will take you towards divine bliss. Remember? Seems familiar? Yes. Deepaji is saying yes. Okay. Attachment to desires is known as Ichcha. Aversion is known as Dvesha. So Krishna is saying Ichcha, Desha, together he calls them as Moha. So that is why the term used is Moha Kalilam. So if you are tossed between Ichcha and Dvesha all the time, they both together is Moha. and they cause a lot of delusion. All delusions are caused because of Ichcha and Dvesha. You are attached to one particular something you are not willing to give up. That is delusion. You hate something so much that even if that thing is not really that bad, you don't care. You have made up your mind that I hate. That is also moha. That is also delusion. So that is why Krishna says, don't get into this Ichcha and Dvesha, be in the middle. So Adi Shankara has also said, see, these are all stalwarts, these are all giants in the spiritual world. Like Ramakrishna, Adi Shankara, and they all said this. So Adi Shankara also said that as long as you are in the clutches of Ichcha and Dvesha, you will suffer not only in the material world, but you will also suffer in the spiritual world, or vice versa. It is not that you are going to stumble only in the spiritual world. If you are stuck with Ichcha and Dvesha, you are going to suffer in material world also. And I have an interesting anecdote. This is a very common term. Love is blind. Have you all heard it? It's a very, very popular. Yes, everybody has heard it. Excellent. Have you also heard that the statement hatred blinds us? Okay, I see some of you have heard it. So you can, okay, I see a lot of people have heard that too. You see, love is blind and hatred blinds you. In other words, both attachment and aversion, they are blinding us. Correct? So how can you see the truth if you are blind? That is all Krishna is saying. So Krishna is saying, get out of this clutch of Ichcha and Dvesha, because as long as you are under the strong influence of Ichcha and Dvesha, you cannot see the truth. Because either way you are going to get blinded. So that is Krishna's message. That is why Krishna is asking us to avoid both extremes. And what is the solution? The solution is not to become like a stone. The solution is to maintain samatvam. Samatvam means you appreciate, but you don't get elated. You are compassionate, but you don't get depressed. Okay? That is samatvam. You have a middle ground. Very important. And you see samatvam, this word will keep repeating many times in the Bhagavad Gita.
Guruji, you also told, practice the pass. You told and you wrote also. If you feel obliged to want to promise something, pass. If you hate someone, pass. If you love someone, pass. If you feel angry, pass. Pass, then you can. Already you gave that one. Please practice pass. I just remember that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lakshmi ji. Really appreciate that. So, I don't know if you could all hear her. She said, I had shared an article. I wrote a small article that said, practice the pause. So Ichcha and Dvesha. Before you make up your mind, either way is pause. Before you react, pause. Sometimes you are reacting out of hatred, pause. That pause makes you practice samatvam. At least when you pause for 3 seconds, in that 3 seconds, you are a sthita pragya. Empowering, you are powerful. Try that. Okay, I am saying something, you just hate it. But hold that thought. I am not saying just external, internal also. There is one thought that says, how the hell can he say something? Hold that thought. Okay? And hold it for just 3 seconds. And in that 3 seconds, you are a sthita pragya. And if you can extend that, the more you extend that, the more a sthita pragya you are going to be. And that is what Krishna wants you to be. And that is what is meant by practicing samatvam. So this act of saying, I am going to pause for 3 seconds is samatvam. And if you keep practicing it, it makes you a sthita pragya. Once you are a sthita pragya, you are always in that pause. Very beautiful. Thanks, Lakshmi ji. Appreciate that. So what Krishna is saying is, if you practice what I am telling you, these are the very important, profound things we just discussed. See, we say that we can achieve the ultimate goal when we have the grace of God. Krishna is saying, if you practice these things, I'm going to grace you abundantly. Because this is what I want. I want you to succeed. I want you to reach me. I want you to get liberation. So Krishna wants this. So he's saying, just practice these things. And once you practice, I will give you the complete knowledge. I will give you Brahma Gyan if you want. And using the Brahma Gyan, you can go and do complete surrender and realize Brahman. That is the whole message. See, I'll tell you one more thing. I'll repeat one more thing. Is human love helps us understand poetry. You see, throughout history, there are examples of people in love, they become poets. You know, divine love helps us understand divine poetry. You know, what are the Vedas? The Vedas are divine poetry. So when you have divine love, you understand divine poetry. In other words, when you are in divine love, you understand Vedas. And when you understand Vedas, you understand God. You know, so very beautiful. So Krishna is assuring us, Krishna is saying that if you can practice these things, then I will assure you that even at the time of death, I'll be there to care for you. And after death, you will reach a good place, don't worry. Simple, pure, humble bhakti, that's all Krishna is asking. And Krishna is saying, Shravanam and Seva. Seva is service to Guru, service to Krishna. So Krishna is saying this will help you all develop bhakti and take you further in this journey of Bhakti Yoga. Now with this, I think I would like to conclude 7th chapter. I would like to conclude by quoting this beautiful shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam. I really like this shloka. So this comes in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavatam. 9th, not chapter, it is 9th canto, 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it says, Aham bhakta paradino ha asvatantra iva dvija sad buddhir krasta hridayo bhaktair bhakta jana priyah. Beautiful, beautiful. Krishna says, I am supremely independent. However, this magic wand of bhakti, it makes me dance. Just like the snake charmer makes the snake dance. Krishna is saying that. The same Krishna who says nobody can, touch me. I am beyond everything. Even time and space, I am beyond all of that. But he says, but this bhakti, it is like that wand which makes me dance. He says, my devotees have taken my heart. What to talk about devotees? Bhaktair bhakta jana priyah. Even those who are devotees of my devotees, Krishna says they are very dear to me. So beautiful. That is the power of bhakti. It's because using the other paths, we cannot realize God. We cannot realize God at all in the other paths. You can at the most get some kind of understanding. We can go close to God, but we cannot completely realize God or merge with God. That is only possible through the path of bhakti. And this is not my interpretation or any other saint's interpretation. This is explicitly said by Krishna. So, in this chapter, we learnt the power of bhakti. We learnt what it takes to obtain the grace of Lord, how to develop bhakti. And we also learnt a few other aspects of how to make sure, we are not shaken from that path. So Shri Krishna is going to continue to emphasize and explain deeper aspects of bhakti in the next few chapters. So stay with us. Totally grateful to all of you, Satsang family. Very grateful. Let us all continue inspiring and helping each other on this path. Hare Krishna. I think with that I will stop talking, and if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead.
Detachment, you referred, in Krishna also referred like a tamaral, lotus leaf, water in the lotus leaf.
Yes.
The lotus, because like that only. Maybe we are in the pond and water is also on us, but it is not attached. It is not attached to the pond water, not the water on it. Like
Correct.
That.
Very, very beautiful. Thank you, Lakshmi ji. Yeah, that is why lotus has a very important place in our culture. Because water never sticks, although it grows in water. Beautiful. Yes, Sulata ji?
Guruji, you had given this example when you had explained this last part, Jnanis and Bhakti Yogis. So in through Jnana, when we are trying to realize or not realize, when we are trying to understand, like as you said, we can't realize God through that path, we can only come close to realization. That you had given this example of monkey and the cat. Like Jnani is where you have to put all your great efforts. We ourselves have to put our efforts in understanding the concepts, Vedic concepts. It's like the baby monkey has to make an effort to hold the mother when it jumps from one tree to another.
Correct,
So
correct.
all our effort, and it's vulnerable because here we might be little egoistics, thinking that it's our effort, hard effort which we are doing and focusing on me. But in bhakti, it is all about selfless love, surrendering, completely serving God selflessly. So there is no expectation or no nothing to show up. So that egoism is not there. And
Excellent, excellent. Very
like
true. So in the cat's example, the mother holds the baby,
Yeah.
whereas in the monkey example, the baby has to hold to the mother. But there is a slightly different perspective to this. This example is used in a slightly different context, where it says that first we have to be like a monkey child. First we have to take efforts. First we have to hold on. We have to hold on consistently, and eventually we graduate, and then the Lord starts treating us like a kitten, where the Lord will himself then hold us. But to make that transition, we have to put in the effort. Yeah, you are very right. But otherwise, the concept you said is very true. In all other paths, it is our own efforts, our own willpower, and we have this mindset of I am doing something, whereas bhakti is the exact opposite. In bhakti, we surrender and we say that whatever happens is happening because of God.
And until we gain faith, knowledge is required. After that, we should.
Correct. Thank you so much, Sulataji. Really appreciate that. Anybody else had anything else to add? Or
And then you gave that for Salataji, the example, just with a small interpretation. It's very easy to understand. You go to God, the God will come to you. That is a one really beautiful example.
yes.
The monkey and then the kitten, that's a thing, I'm really... Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Most others, are you thoughtful or are you sleepy? Huh?
Very profound session, Guruji.
Thank you, Suchita ji. Okay then, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. My best wishes with all of you. I hope this all makes sense and I hope you all progress. We all progress together in this journey. Next week we will have revision of 7th chapter. So I'm going to solicit volunteers. I will ask in the WhatsApp group, and I hope we get a lot of volunteers and we have a successful revision next week. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.